Yes, sir. At once.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
New construction options.
Yes, sir.
Building.
At once. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well.
Construction complete. New construction
Awaiting
options.
orders. At once.
Building.
Reporting. At once. Agreed. Affirmative. Agreed. At once. Awaiting orders. Agreed. Reporting. Agreed. Agreed. Yes, sir. Reporting. Very well. Very well. Reporting. Very well. Acknowledged. Very well. Awaiting orders. At once. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Very well. Ready and waiting.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Very well. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. At once. At once.
Insufficient
Affirmative.
funds.
Agreed. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Agreed. Very well. At once. Affirmative. At once. Yes, sir. At once. Very well. Very well. Affirmative. At once. At once. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Very well. Reporting. At once. Very well. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Ready and waiting. Agreed. At once. Affirmative.
Upgrade complete.
Awaiting orders. At once. Very well. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Very well.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Waiting order.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Very well. Agreed. Ready and waiting. Affirmative. Agreed. Very well. Affirmative.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Vehicle reporting.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged. Ready and waiting. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete. New construction options. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Report acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Our base is
Acknowledged.
under attack.
Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders at once.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
New
Yes, sir.
construction options.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Waiting order. Acknowledged.
Repairing. Unit
Vehicle
repaired.
reporting. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Unable to comply. Building in progress. New construction options. Building. On hold. Cancel. Building. Unit ready.
Vehicle reporting.
Building.
Affirmative. 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 Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Acknowledged.
Ready and waiting.
Vehicle acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Lost.
Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit
Waiting order.
lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Waiting orders.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Waiting affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Insufficient
Comrade.
funds.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
On hold.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Comrade. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Very well.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Acknowledged. Of
Lost.
course. Of course. Affirmative.
Unit repaired.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Vehicle
Waiting
reporting.
acknowledged. Reporting.
Preparing.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
prepared.
Acknowledged. Waiting acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Reporting. Reporting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Agreed.
Our base is under
Affirmative.
attack.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Ready and waiting. Very well. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well.
Waiting order. Affirmative.
Report affirmative. Yes, sir. Waiting order. Yes, sir.
Preparing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting order. Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit repaired. Building. Building.
Report. Acknowledged.
Training. Unit
Yes,
ready.
sir.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Comrade, acknowledged. Comrade, acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction
knowledge.
complete. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction
Vehicle report.
complete.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative. Report. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unable to comply. Building in progress.
Yes,
Construction
sir. Acknowledged.
complete.
Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Waiting order.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Repairing.
Awaiting orders.
Unit repaired.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Our base
Affirmative.
is under attack.
Affirmative.
Building. Repairing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting
Affirmative.
order.
Vehicle report. Acknowledged. Vehicle acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit repaired.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Comrade, acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Acknowledged.
Repairing. New construction options. Unit ready.
Vehicle reporting.
Building.
Affirmative.
Insufficient funds. Unit repaired.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Reporting.
Vehicle report. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Engineering.
Unit repaired.
Affirmative.
Our base is under attack.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Report. Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative.
Repairing. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Vehicle
Insufficient
reporting.
funds.
Acknowledged. Waiting order.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Comrade.
Awaiting
Acknowledged.
orders.
Report. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Awaiting acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Vehicle yes, report. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes. Affirmative.
Report affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes. Affirmative.
Mission accomplished.